Another thing, too, that I think is really important is getting copies of the financial records of a charitable organization and finding out how much that organization is spending on fundraising and administrative expenses compared to program expenses. I mean, as donors, we want our money to go to program. We don't want our money to be spent on a lot of overheads. And yet there are some organizations out there that are spending 80, 90% of the funds they raise on overheads and fundraising expenses. You can find that information out. You can do the research and get that.
And you've already highlighted that when you're talking about people coming to the door on the phone. Those are groups that are likely to be suspicious. But name some sources. Now, I know one because I used to go to federal employees on behalf of a group called Earth Justice.
Yeah,
and
I've heard of the organization.
I'd go there for them, which is environmental groups, and I would be there with somebody from United Way, and because United Way doesn't accept all charities, there's a United Health Organizations one as well, and the three of us would put in a pitch to a bunch of employees. The thing that surprised me is the federal government had mandatory rules that if you didn't have a certain percentage that was actually going to the services you were talking about, you weren't allowed to give. And for everybody else, they had a binder, a listing, a printed brochure on the overhead rate. And at Breathe California, we were in great shape. We were in 5 to 8%. And, you know, your typical charity, you can give me a better number, but I think you couldn't be higher than 25% administrative costs and be in the federal list.
GuideStar, www.guidestar.org, will provide you with financial data concerning a lot of charitable organizations. They will also rank the organizations for you. They do a lot of research. So use one of those sites to look up your charity before writing out that check.
I think these independent sources are incredibly important rather than, there are other areas where you end up having difficulties with certifying organizations actually being funded by the people that are certifying them. And
these websites have copies. I know that GuideStar does, and I think Charity Navigator does too, have copies of each nonprofit's 990. And the 990 return is like the tax return that nonprofits have to file. They don't pay taxes, but they do have to file a return, and that's the 990. The 990 lists executive compensation. It lists payments to consultants.